Here's a quick video showing how to modify the X ends. These are the two largest parts if you look at them in terms of length, width, and height. The holes in the middle are fairly smooth, are fairly straightforward, and usually pretty exact in their size. The problem is once in a while they're a tight fit, so if you're trying to actually put the smooth rod in them, if you're having to put a little bit too much pressure on it, you can actually split the sides of it. It's not really going to matter in the long term because you end up putting screws in here that have a clamping mechanism that clamps on it, but it just is kind of an aesthetic thing. So what we're going to do is, if you want to prepare this hole to make it so that it is definitely the right size to be able to put the smooth rod in there, what we're going to do is we are going to take one of the long threaded rods that come with the kit, and if you've already assembled the printer frame, the easiest rod to actually pull out is the very longest one on the bottom in the middle, and so it takes about 10 minutes to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this as a file, and so if we want to, we'll thread this in a little bit, and then as it gets a little bit in there, we just kind of file it back and forth. And the good news is that these rods are 5/16 inch diameter, so it's only a couple thousandths of an inch smaller in diameter than the smooth rods. So once you get it so that this will actually go through all the holes, then it's still actually going to be tight enough that the 8mm rod will actually go in and still be a pretty tight fit. So let's do that for all four of them. Actually, this one works pretty good. Some colors are shrink slightly more than other colors. This black turned out it's pretty good, and give it a pretty good filing, and you can see they're pretty straight. So let's go ahead and do this one. This one has a little bit in there, you can see. So we twist it, and once we get it almost all the way through there, or all the way through there, kind of just file it back and forth 2 or 3 times, and we got all 4 holes prepared. You can always blow this off, get rid of it. Then we're going to just take our smooth rod and kind of test it, make sure. And in this case, we're actually going to just kind of twist it in there. And there you go. It's the right diameter, and it's still very tight. And that's exactly what you want. So anyway, that's just a quick way of preparing those. That way you can have your smooth rod in there, still a very tight fit, and it's bored to the right diameter. If it turns out that you don't want to actually, you've already assembled the frame with all the long threaded rods, you can actually still use the small 2-inch stub rod that we will later use for our X-end idler. You can actually do the same thing with it and then just barely get it in both sides and just kind of file it back and forth. Like I said, some colors are a little bit tighter than others, but so long as it goes through, you can actually use it as a file also, and it works pretty good. That way, you already have that one ready for the X-ends when we want to go ahead and put it for our X-end idler here. The one thing you don't want to do is use your small 6mm rods. The reason I actually wire tie them together as they ship is that you want these rods as straight as possible. Resist the urge to actually use them as a file. Truth is, this is the exact right diameter that you want to file it down to. This can only lead into a misaligned hole, or even worse, you can actually bend these if you put a little bit too much pressure to them.